Happy Thursday, everybody. This is George McCracken with PC Dynamix, and this is another Meet Me Thursday with Innovative Business Networkers. Today, I am joined by Andy Sherman. Hey, Andy, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great, George. Thanks.
Thanks for being here today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be.
So why don't we just get started with the easy stuff. Just give us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Sure. Yeah, glad to. So my business is called Apex Growth Advisors. It's a sales consultancy, and essentially what I do is work with small businesses, some medium-sized, but primarily small businesses, and really help them out in terms of getting to record levels of sales growth, accountability, and discipline as it relates to all things sales.
Excellent. What drove you into that line of work or that business?
Well, that is my line of work, basically. So I'm a longtime sales pro, I guess. If I look back at my career, I started off in sales right out of school. I went to work for big companies. My first job out of school was IBM. At that time, that was one of the biggest of the bigs. And I kind of bookended my big company experience by working for Apple. So I worked for like one of the most disciplined and maybe rigid companies, and then bookended that with a kind of not a free-for-all, but a very free-flowing, innovative company. I took the experience from there and started working with startups, started into sales leadership. So I spent a number of years doing startups, including a company that we took from 0 to 100 million in 4 years, IPO, and this was all during the .com days. So it's one of those .com stories. We went public, $320 per share price, split twice, and after the .com bust, it was down to 28 cents a share. So I saw the whole cycle. So kind of crazy times. And after the .coms really blew up, I shifted again from startups to more of restarts or turnarounds. And I started working with companies, typically very small companies that needed help in sales. I ended up running a couple of those companies. We sold them successfully. So I had 3 exits in that regard, but it was always doing this sales turnaround, sales tune-up. And so I finally decided this is really what I do, and I should do it full-time and on my own as a consultant and working for a number of clients now.
I think it's a great space. I know when we started the business, we had no idea how to sell anything. We had, we thought we had a pretty good product and a pretty good service, but it's taken really years and a lot of mentors and a lot of learning to get, I would consider myself decent at sales now. I still don't consider myself a good salesman. So what in your service offering, makes you unique? Why should people pick you over, another sales advisor?
Yeah. Well, I think there are unique things. First of all, a lot of what I do is I function as really a vice president of sales or a sales leader for the client. So I'm not just a consultant giving suggestions. I'm not a sales trainer per se, but I really get fully involved with a corporation, but I do it on a part-time or fractional basis. So for the client, I'm providing all of the benefits that I can bring from my years of experience in small, medium, and large companies, having gone through some of those big growth stories I talked about. But I'm really working on behalf of the client, with the client, and I'm doing the sales leadership that in many cases they need. I do coach, I help sell, but I help set up the sales process. In many cases, I work to build the team and make sure that the right people are in the right places, get the sales strategy down. So it's a very hands-on type of operation that I do, and this fractional VP of sales notion is somewhat unique in sales. There's a lot of fractional CFOs, for example, that's been around for a long time. Not so much in sales. So that's a unique thing. And then the other key characteristic for me is just my experience and how that maps to the client. And that's one of the reasons, as I mentioned, I tend to key in on small businesses because that's where it really the last 15 years or so, that's the kind of work I've done. And I feel like I've really gotten a whole new skill set that I can work with my clients and implement.
So what is, say over the past, 12 months or 18 months, how has business been? And give us some of the things that you're doing to generate leads and generate business.
Sure.
For your group.
Yeah. Well, I think business overall has been good. And we certainly hit an interruption, a hiccup with COVID and the early phases of COVID. A lot of organizations everywhere, and I think certainly in my target area, the small business space, just really had to pull back and reassess what they were doing. So there was a freeze or a pause, if you will, for a lot of business, both in terms of existing activity and things that were pending. But on the more positive side, right now, business is very active, and I'm working with a number of clients. One of the main things we're dealing with now is, okay, I got in a hole, so because of COVID, now I got to get out of it. So sales is certainly nothing like selling your way out of a hole. That's what most companies need to do. So there's an uptick from that right now, and that is has been a pretty kind of a can be a silver lining to this terrible pandemic that is one right now, that there's a lot of activity, and in many cases the clients might have had plans to do a full hiring or do a lot of things that they have to kind of hold back on. So again, that fractional model that I provide works really well with a lot of clients in this unique set of circumstances.
What kind of things do you do to, you touched on it a little, but what kind of things do you do to market the business and really drive new leads?
Yeah, well, my business comes primarily through word of mouth. So referrals, either client referrals or partner referrals. So I work very heavily to make sure my clients are satisfied. One of the things about my business is most businesses, including most of what I've done my whole career, really strive to do repeat or recurring business with clients. Ironically, my business is successful when I've achieved a point where I walk away. The client has graduated, so to speak, or sometimes I feel like not everybody likes this guy, but I'm kind of a Gordon Ramsay. I go in and clean up the restaurant, and when it's back on its feet and the folks can run it themselves, my work is done. So that's really a mark of my success, is when the client is self-sufficient and has good sales process and the right leadership in place and can manage their business going forward. So client referrals are huge. And then on the referral partner, I really depend heavily on trusted advisors. So there are companies like yours that work closely with my same client set, and the referrals from those trusted advisors are just precious, and they go a long way. So most of my marketing, so to speak, is really done through networking and referral building. And I do a little bit of direct marketing, but that's a minor piece relative to the others.
On a more personal note, what would you say are some of the biggest, biggest things that you attribute your success to?
Well, it takes a ton of resiliency. Sales in general, you got to be resilient. You've got to learn, and this is a hard lesson that you have to learn early. I think I did, but you have to be very resilient. You have to understand rejection and get past it. There are a lot of lows in sales and very few highs, but the highs are huge. So you have to be able to balance that out. So the resiliency factor is just huge. I think that a focus on the client and really making sure that you deliver for the client is the hallmark of good salespeople, because that is how you develop a good reputation, or if your business is subject to repeat business, that's the best way to kind of continue to have a great business. So that's it. And then there are a lot of things I think that go into sales that for me go way back to being a kid in sports and being competitive, and that those types of things help provide the drive and motivation to just keep at it.
So you talked a lot about resiliency, which I agree. It's being a business owner in general, resiliency is a huge asset, but in sales probably more than anything. What other piece of advice would you give to someone starting out in business or starting out in sales today?
Well, I think that a lesson that I've learned, advice that I've gotten, and I'll phrase this in a polite way, work with people that you like, work with and for people that you like. Don't work for a-holes is is the not so polite way of putting it, but
gotcha.
I've certainly learned that throughout my career. You can't always choose exactly, but as you kind of progress through your career, it's actually important to find yourself the right situation where you're working with like-minded people, and that I just can't stress how much I've found in my own career that really does make a huge difference between kind of happiness in a role and success versus just not being in the right place. So, I think that's one. I also, I personally have, I would say, taken risks. I'm very conservative with investments and stuff like that, but on the career side, I've taken some risks with jobs or taking new roles that were uncharted territory, and I've enjoyed that tremendously and found it's been ultimately really beneficial to my career. And that includes sometimes not just going up the ladder and just following the traditional path. Sometimes it's take a step sideways and find yourself happier, more fulfilled, and ultimately more successful.
All right. So these are the if you watch the channel at all, these are my last two questions are always my favorite two. If you had completely unlimited resources and could be doing anything at all that you wanted, whether it be business or in your personal life, what would it be?
Well, I really do love what I'm doing. I could continue to do what I'm doing. I would also continue to do things I'm doing, but I do more of it. So, for example, we have a 217-year-old house, and so I'm always doing stuff around that. So I would be doing even more of that. Fortunately, it's not falling down around my house or around my head, but there's always something I could do. So I do more of that. And then my wife and I have done quite a bit. She far more than me, really, with some volunteer work and humanitarian type aid with some villages down in Guatemala, working through an organization down there. And I know that we would both, having unlimited resources, we would be spending a significant amount of time and resource to support those efforts. So that would definitely be a big part, even bigger than it is today.
Great. All right, Andy, now's the time. What is your superpower?
My daughter gave me a T-shirt that says Grill Sergeant. Sorry, not Grill Master, Grill Sergeant. So grilling, smoking. I'm a green egg guy, so I'm an egghead. If you're familiar with that whole thing.
Yeah, sure.
And you know, I love all things smoke, and I'm constantly experimenting and trying new things and kind of broadening the spectrum from, you know, meat and fish and all that kind of stuff to a recent big hit, because I have 2 vegetarians in the family. So a grilled salad with grilled fruits, unbelievable. So anyway, that's I would say that's my superpower.
So one of our first guests on this was Mike Camaro, and he actually said that his superpower was grilling. So I think we should have the first ever Meet Me Thursday grill off. We'll invite all the IBM members, and we'll see who's the champ.
Okay, yeah. Well, but he's on. You're on. He's on.
All right, sounds good.
I'll throw it down.
All right, Andy, why don't you take a second and just let everybody know how they can find you, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay, sounds good. Phone number is 978-273-7731, and my email address is asherman@salesacceleration.com. I know you're going to spell that out.
We'll get it.
apexgrowthadvisors.com is my website.
All right. Well, thanks a lot again for being here, Andy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you, George.
All right. And everybody out there at Innovative Business Networkers, I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Okay.